Hello everyone, welcome to Scholar About Tarot. Thank you for stopping by the study space. Just call me Mayfield. I'm here to do a pretty chill video. I had teased this out in my previous video if you'd seen that. And I just wanted to kind of do a little bit of a, I don't know if flip through is the right term because we're not going to be flipping through the whole thing. But I wanted to talk a little bit about existentialism. So, existentialist philosophy, or existentialism, is a branch of postmodern philosophy that prioritizes action over value. We exist as free individuals with a will that allows us the agency to make our own purpose in life. So, if you say you believe you're a kind person, show don't tell. So, where does existentialism in tarot fit into this? Well, since I wanted to do something super chill, I wanted to show off more of my copy of the Philosophy Cards by Melanie Mascio. I purchased this deck directly from the artist since I missed the Kickstarter by a couple of months or so, and I'm very glad that I snagged a copy. At the time, I was a student peer educator assigned to an Intro to Philosophy course, and this deck was the tool that I needed to save me from reading Heidegger. Which, by the way, I did notice that Mascio used Heidegger's name super sparingly, so I'm really grateful for that, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I guess I should really ask you, the audience, what you already know about existentialist philosophy. Perhaps you're somewhat familiar with names like Nietzsche or Albert Camus, or concepts like God is dead, or characters like the stranger, Zarathustra, or the madman. What do you already know about any of these names or concepts? What emotions, if any, do they evoke in you? Existentialism gets a pretty bad rep, I think, for being every high school edgelord's favorite type of philosophy. And in my experience, it's often mistaken for nihilism, which is the belief that nothing is true and values are meaningless in the grand scheme of things. But nihilism is only part of the journey, and that's where we get to tarot. So the philosophy cards change every major arcana into a character, concept, or theme from the various existentialist works. Now, one of my favorite things about learning existentialism, by the way, is that many of its parts come in the guise of literary works, and that's actually really important to remember as we continue. It's not so much that it's like a non-fictional thing, at least not always. Sometimes many existentialist concepts and characters are coming in from stories that these authors write, not so much, nonfiction type stuff. So it's not, well, more often than not, it's not dense like, Derrida. But it can be a wild ride because there's a lot of interpretation that's baked into it that can differ between readers. So the way that I use tarot is not only as tech, but as a text. And existentialist philosophy fits into the Major Arcana incredibly well as a text. And as we're just going to take a flip through of just the Major Arcana, and as we take a look at each card, I'm going to give you the card association and the quote that came with it. Not every one of these cards is going to get my my comments, but I will offer a little bit of commentary as we continue. So let's go ahead and just get started with our very first card, a Fool, which here is referred to as the painter. This is a concept from Sartre. And the quote is, "Man is indeed a project." Oh, whoops. That's not the right one. Correct association, correct author. But the quote is, "In life, man commits himself and draws his own portrait outside of which there is nothing." And this is from Existentialism is a Humanism. the magician, the agent. And this is also from Sartre, same text. Man is indeed a project which possesses a subjective life instead of being a kind of moss or a fungus or a cauliflower. Before that projection of the self, nothing exists. And here we have the high priestess as the free spirit, also from Sartre, but this is from a different text. This is from the Age of Reason. He was free in every way, free to behave like a fool or a machine, free to accept, free to refuse, free to equivocate. He could do what he liked. No one had the right to advise him. And so I'm chiming in to say, like, it's super funny that I confused the first two, the Fool and the Magician, because I find it super interesting that the first three cards in particular emphasize the concept of free will through different vantage points. So as a subject, and then an object, and then a concept. So subject in that we are the ones doing the painting, an object in that we are the project, and a concept, freedom. So here we have the Empress as the Dionysian. This is a concept from Nietzsche. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. And then we have the Emperor as the Apollonian, also from Nietzsche. Same text, by the way, they share is the birth of tragedy. The image of Apollo must include that measured limitation, that freedom from wilder impulses, that wise calm of the image-making God. And so just chiming in again, while it makes sense that our Emperor signifies order of some sort, it did not occur to me until this deck that it implies that the Empress is basically like an agent of chaos in addition to being a nurturer. So I thought that was really cool. The Hierophant. Here we have Sisyphus from Albert Camus. All Sisyphus's silent joy is contained therein. His fate belongs to him. His rock is a thing. Likewise, the absurd man, when he contemplates his torment, silences all the idols. And this is from the myth of Sisyphus. And here we are back with Sartre. So we have the lovers as shown by the other. By the mere appearance of the other, I put in the position of passing judgment on myself as on an object, for it is as an object that I appear to the other. This is from Being in Nothingness. And here we have the Chariot as the I almost said Antichrist, oh my god, as the architect from Nietzsche. And this is from Thus Spake Zarathustra. For the game of creation, a sacred yes is needed. I just absolutely love that line. Here we have Strength as the Metamorphosis, also by Nietzsche, from Will to Power. This world is the will to power and nothing besides. And I was just kind of thinking back to this video from ContraPoints. I believe it's Envy, where she discusses Nietzsche's like will to power and a couple other things from Nietzsche. And she shares like this quote from MLK Jr. that love can also be the will to power. So I think that's really interesting to keep in mind within the context of the Strength card. Here we have the Hermit as Zarathustra, also from Nietzsche. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal. What can be loved in man is that he is an overgoing and a downgoing. And here is Wheel of Fortune, as shown by the Absurd from Albert Camus in The Myth of Sisyphus. The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world, which I find to be a very chilling quote. I really actually like how the Wheel of Fortune and the Hierophant are explicitly being placed in conversation here. Their quotes are from the same narrative, and they come together by this concept of silence and containment. So we have like the Hierophant back here. We have the Hierophant here, who is contained within specific traditions that may or may not go anywhere, like Sisyphus, whereas the Wheel of Fortune is just a chaotic mess, only chaotic because of the relationship between ourselves and as individuals and the world out there. Here we have Justice as Eternal Return from Kundera, which is actually an author that I don't believe I've read before. This is a text called The Unbearable Lightness of Being. And the quote is, "In the world of eternal return, the weight of unbearable responsibility lies heavy on every move we make." I really enjoy the simplicity of this quote, despite how heavy it is. So yeah, I was really incredibly happy to have something new to read when I eventually get back to reading philosophy. Here we have the Hanged Man as the Orphan from Sartre. We're basically back to existentialism is a humanism. And the quote is, "We are left alone without excuse. Man is condemned to be free." Which, that latter part, by the way, "man is condemned to be free," is a very popular line from Sartre. Here we have Death, La Mort from Camus, specifically from The Stranger. "Everything is true and nothing is true." So this is a super, actually, hold on, this is a super nerd moment. If anyone's familiar with the game series Assassin's Creed, it's a game from around the 2010s that connects gods and myths of all traditions to like a single narrative. Basically, the assassins have a common saying that is, it's nothing is true, everything is permitted, which is a very existential and almost nihilistic thing to believe. I feel that it's more related to the Tower, but it works pretty well here as the Death card as well. Here we have Temperance as Throneness. So this is what's kind of fun about how sparingly Mascio uses Heidegger. The quote is, "Into this house we're born, into this world we are thrown, like a dog without a bone." And this is from a song, I think this is from a song called "Riders on the Storm" by Morrison. This quote is basically a placeholder for Heidegger, which I find to be really funny. And I also kind of appreciate it because I feel like this really humanizes temperance, since temperance is usually depicted by an angel. This concept of throneness has definitely been making its rounds simultaneously in discourse adjacent to like the ethics of parenting. Namely, we didn't ask to be here, therefore our parents owe us everything and we owe them nothing. I just find it really interesting that temperance is represented by an essentially like all or nothing, and yeah, just an all and nothing concept. Here we have the devil, depicted by the madman from Nietzsche. This is from his text called The Gay Science. The quote is, "Do we not stray as through infinite nothingness? Does not empty space breathe upon? Has it not become colder? Does not night come on continually, darker and darker? Shall we not have to light lanterns in the morning?" So as further context, this is the same text where we find the madman proclaiming that God is dead. This line is so infamous that people tend to forget what follows it. So God is dead, and we have killed him. Now, this may be up for interpretation, but I'm pretty sure that the madman is in a state of terror here, and slight hope for this development. If God is dead, then we are free to create our own meaning in life. We are no longer chained, but that seems to be what the madman is questioning here in this particular quote that we're offered for this card. Here's the Tower as depicted by nausea from Sartre. I understood the nausea. I possessed it. The essential thing is contingency. I mean that one cannot define existence as necessity. So just to get super personal, this might be one of my favorite depictions of the Tower, because when I first read Sartre's Nausea, I was actually going through some GI issues that went unresolved at the time, and I recognized that, nausea is kind of literal in the narrative, but there's like so much more than going on than that. But at the time, I just kind of trauma bonded to that concept and this card on the strength of this idea that being too aware of the uncanny of just pure existence. You know what? It's just been a while since I've read Nausea. I should reread it again. But I really love this card, and that Nausea was depicted in any of the Major Arcana. I think it works really well here as the Tower. Okay, so we really couldn't run away from Heidegger for too long. So here's the one Heidegger one. This is the star as shown by the spotlight. All revealing belongs within a harboring and a concealing. And this is from the question concerning technology. Here is the moon as shown by the situation. That's funny. The situation. This is from Sartre's Being and Nothingness. There is freedom only in a situation, and there is a situation only through freedom. And here is the new dawn, also known as the sun, from Nietzsche in The Gay Science. The sea, our sea, again lies open before us. Perhaps never before did such an open sea exist. Now, once again, here's that glimmer of hope. I also find it hilarious that Nietzsche is assigned to such a positive card as the sun. This was actually the selling point for this deck for me, is Nietzsche can be really cynical without realizing how oddly positive he's being if you look at his concepts through just like a different angle. Here's Judgment, the hammer. This is also from Nietzsche, but this is from the Twilight of the Idols. And if your hardness does not wish to flash and cut through, how can you one day create with me? And finally, here's the world, authenticity, and we are back with Sartre in Being and Nothingness. The champion of sincerity is not ignorant of the transcendence of human reality, and he knows how at need to appeal to it for his own advantage. So if I'm interpreting this correctly, this is definitely a clever tie to the world through an existentialist perspective. Basically, Sartre is saying that even someone who's like super down to earth sees a sacredness to our lived experience. And instead of adhering to quote unquote empty rituals or rules of living, looking beyond death for a better afterlife, we make strategic moves to enhance our lived experience, either spiritually or otherwise, while we're here. So basically, no time like the present. We give ourselves a 9 of Cups pretty much. So that's the entirety of the Major Arcana from the philosophy cards. I'm not going to flip through the Minor Arcana because the majors are definitely just the stars of the show, but as just a brief overview, I will share that the suits have been renamed. So Pentacles is action. The Cups, the Wands is will. Cups is emotion. And the Swords are reason. So I think these are excellent suit names in line with the meaning of the traditional suits, and they work really well with existentialist philosophy as well. I would also say that the minors are quite pippish as they display like an incredibly abstract work of art moving forward from like the majors. Um, but I think you do have to use a lot of your own intuition and imagination about what the images you see mean to you and how you translate that art into interpretation and then action. Um, there's a lot of blank space, I think, to actively consider, and very minimal. It uses very minimal colors to work with, which I actually really do appreciate in an existentialist deck. I think existentialism does work with a lot of negative space. That is, that space with which you make decisions that will then turn into action. It's the same thing going on here with all of the cards and the way that they're illustrated. So that's absolutely fantabulous. So I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I'll reiterate here since it's relevant, of course. This is the way that I typically use this deck. I actually do shuffle test. I actually do separate the majors and the minor arcana when working with this deck. There's just such a shift in abstractness in the art between the two arcanas that I just pick from the major pile as a significator and then pick maybe a minor arcana or two from the courts to offer like additional context. So I guess as an exercise here, let me go ahead and select a quick little significator. Alrighty, let's go ahead and pick. We got a significator here. So we have the hammer, judgment. And we'll go ahead and draw 2 cards. So perhaps a 1 to answer, like what is the significator trying to illuminate in my mind? And I'll unveil that in just a moment. And then the second card, what sort of action should I embark to address this? Okay, so for our first card, what is the significator trying to illuminate? We have action 9. So it's a 9 of Pentacles, which is a pretty positive AF card. And then what sort of action should I embark to address this? Page of Will. Okay, so I really love this because at the time that I'm recording this, it is actually my birthday. And I sort of made the decision to take the day off from my day job and make sure I did a recording. This was really to exercise my own passions, I guess. And so hopefully this will just be I mean, I guess this video is just kind of a birthday present to myself. But I don't know, what does this little spread mean for you? So thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I should actually probably give you a disclaimer. So this is one of my deck mod fails. I've mentioned this before in my deck mod video, but it actually turned out really well in the long run. So this was originally done in, I think it was just either a basic Sharpie, or I tried edging it in I tried edging it in something, but it didn't work out very well, so I used an oil-based Sharpie, and I thought I had ruined the deck, but it turned out to be perfectly fine. So yay me. All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this super chill video, and hopefully I'll see you sooner than later. But until next time, as always, make discourse, not war. Definitely let me know what you think about this deck, what you think about maybe other philosophy decks, because there are other philosophy decks out there. And I'll see you next time. Bye.